We're going to transition over to the NFL. 2 weeks into the season, it seems like we kind of always do this, not just us, but all these sports networks. Which 0-2 teams can turn things around? There's obviously like some kind of stat where 12% of teams that start 0-2 over the last how many ever years, 20, 25 years, something like that, I think,
Yeah.
make the playoffs. So, of course, you start 0-2, you're pretty much already setting yourself behind, even with a 17-game season now. So, right now, we've got 9 teams that started the season 0-2. You got the Ravens, Titans, Colts, Giants, that team in Carolina, the Jaguars, the Bengals, Broncos, and the Rams. Now, of those teams, I kind of would put them in tiers, but I'll start with you. Which teams do you think have a good chance to turn things around, make it to the playoffs? Which teams do you think might need some work, and which teams do you think are already kind of dead in the water?
Yeah, I think that's a fun way to kind of think about it in tiers. So I think my tier one, they are kind of in the same division, but I would think that like the Ravens, or well, I'll do three, but I think the Ravens, Jags, and Bengals have the most pathway for like we can save this, we can get out of this, we shouldn't be here, right? Like there's talent on those teams that like you could be 1-1, maybe should be 2-0. I think the Jags probably should be 2-0. The Ravens, certainly could have easily been 2-0. The Bengals could be 1-1. I think they were. I mean, they could be 2-0, but that Patriots game was really weird. Um,
Yeah.
I think these three teams to me are the most like salvageable teams. My original thing I was going to say was I'd put the Ravens and Bengals, and then you would have the AFC South group because all three of the four of them are here. So like one of them could do good enough to maybe get up there again, unless they keep losing out. But I think realistically, going from there, I would put like the Rams and Titans and Colts. Also, maybe Rams and Colts feel like these guys should have something going on. I would put the Titans in there with them just to keep this like a 3 tier right now since it's 9. So Rams, Titans, and Colts in that second tier is like these guys, maybe should be more so 1-1. There's not as much like hope on the team at the moment, but they should be good. They should be decent football teams. Titans have had some pretty good offensive flashes here and there. Their defense has been good. They just have fumbled around a lot. The Colts also should have a stout defense with an offense that should be able to roll, but they have just not been able to get it going. Passes not always connecting. Anthony Richardson had like 200 yards in the first game, despite having like 9 for like 17 completion or 7 for 19 completion or something like that. So it's like you can bomb it down the field, but like, if you miss every other pass, it's not
Yeah.
that great. It's not on Anthony Richardson either. It's not really on the receivers. It's just kind of like a general like the Colts can't seem to put it together. And the Rams have had just like injuries and mistakes. Stafford had some bad picks against the Lions, and then yesterday against the Cardinals. Uh, I don't know if the Rams remember that they were supposed to play yesterday, but the Cardinals certainly did. So the Rams, that one feels tough because I feel like they should be in that second tier, but that Cardinals game is much worse than that Lions game. Um, and then in that bottom tier, pretty easily, Panthers, Jaguars, Broncos. Panthers, Giants, Broncos. Does not feel like these three teams, these two teams have that much hope, right? Like the Panthers have been outscored like where they've allowed 73 points, I believe, and then have only scored, you know, like 13 in 2 weeks, which is bad. It's really bad. In case those numbers don't jump out at you, there's not much hope at all. They have benched Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start. I think that's a good thing. I have nothing against Bryce Young, but I think this gives the Panthers a chance to play a few games with Andy and go, is it Bryce or is it everything else? Not that I think they'll whip around into a playoff game or playoff team because of Andy Dalton starting, but I think you'll be able to watch. Are we losing close games now? Like, is Andy getting the ball down the field and we're scoring, or is it the same exact problem? And we can start to kind of evaluate like what's going on and try to figure out a way to get Bryce some confidence back, or uh, assassinate David Tepper. I'm kidding. We can't. But that guy does need to be ousted from the team somehow. The way that NFL owners can hold on to power is tough. As long as Tepper's there, I think the Panthers are a little doomed. The Giants against the Commanders seem like they could be maybe a second tier 0-2 team. But the coaches and everyone knew, and the front office knew that Graham Gano was maybe dealing with a leg injury, and then he went out in the game, and they had nobody at all to kick the ball, so they went for 2 every time they scored, and they scored 3 touchdowns to Washington's 0 touchdowns, but lost 21-18 because they could not convert on the 2-point conversions, and Washington just hit 7 field goals first, like I think one of the first kickers to do 7 in a game, um, and took him out there. And it just looks a little bit like there's front office problems. The team, either can't get it going at all, like against the Vikings. When they do get it going, there's some other like extraneous factor holding them down. So that seems bad. And then the Broncos, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'd say they're entirely worse than the Panthers. Panthers are probably the
Nah,
worst team in the league.
yeah.
I would probably move the Broncos up one, but they might be worse than the Giants. They're just the Giants show flashes of like, look, things could work if we could just plan ahead or think about football a little better. Neighbors and Jones didn't have the most amazing connection in week 1. They got it together mostly in week 2. He had a really bad drop pass, and that was on him. But otherwise, I mean, the Giants looked mostly good against the Commanders, which isn't amazing, but the Commanders are not the worst team ever, and they are 1-1. Um, the Broncos are 0-2, and it's just been, turning the ball over, throwing interceptions. Bo Nix has done quite a lot of that. As he said, what's going on in your mind when you throw this pick? He said he dropped back and threw it to the other team. So, he did
Nice.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worse than the Panthers, but like if they played, that would maybe be like a 3-2 game. Like the Broncos just can't seem to get their offense together. Their defense holds out pretty well, and then eventually it's just gonna kind of fall apart. So yeah, that's my bottom tier. I would say if I had to go bottom up, let's see if I can do this in my head here. I would go Panthers last, and then the Broncos, and then the Giants, and then probably the Titans, Colts, Rams, and then uh, mm, I would say just because of division, Bengals, Jags, Ravens.
You're look. I respect the Jags here, and I think I'm kind
That's
of
just because of
disappointed.
division.
Yeah, yeah, and it's more disappointment for the Jags for me because
Yeah.
when you look back at last season, right? I mean, the way they finished the season, like they were in the catbird seat for a little bit, and then what happened? Obviously, Trevor got injured, but where they finished that season, missed the playoffs, disappointing there, and then to continue it. I mean, I saw I can't remember what exactly the week was, but I think they said T Law hadn't won a game since like Thanksgiving. And
Oh yeah,
again,
yeah, yeah.
there were injuries, there were games that he missed because of injury during that span. But again, not a great stretch for the Jags to end the season and start the season. So for me, I got 4 tiers. So teams that I think absolutely will turn around: Ravens, Bengals. Obviously, with the division, Browns at least came back this week and won against the Jags, of course. And then Steelers are 2-0. That defense is doing wonders. I mean, even against the Broncos offense, defense is still really good. Justin Fields is doing enough to win the game, not making mistakes. So Steelers, that division is always going to be hard, and especially as of late. But I think both teams can still make it in. I mean, because heck, nowadays you can get 4 teams from a division. The whole division now can make the playoffs. So I don't think that'll happen, but I would still bet on the Ravens and Bengals to come back. I mean, the Bengals probably should have beat the Chiefs. I mean, you had the PI at the end, which sucks to have that kind of call at the end of the game. But I mean, if it's a PI, it's a PI. So it is what
Yeah.
it is. You can't commit that there. So I had them up top. I would then put the Rams, who seems like their biggest issue now is once again injuries. I mean, Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, Darius Williams. You got like the entire O line missing. Just a ton going wrong for them. But I would think they're still a good team until what happened with the Cardinals yesterday. So I don't know if we see more of what happened. If we see more of the Rams that we got later in the year last year, I think they'll still have a chance. I'd put the Colts in that same spot. Anthony Richardson can't throw 100 picks like he did just yesterday. That cannot happen. And then I would put the Jags in that kind of similar situation. They still got talent, but I'm just not sure how they're really gonna like. They're gonna have to come back and work for the rest of the season. Now, thankfully for them, the rest of the division outside of the Texans, they're all here in this 0-2 spot, like you said. So, I mean, at the very least, you have a chance. Even though I think the Texans will probably win this division easily, they got a
Yeah.
chance there. And then the next year, I would put the Giants. Um, NFC East games kind of, I mean, divisional games in general are always kind of close. So I don't know what to really take from yesterday. I mean, are the Commanders really that good in the first place. I mean, they can win some games here and there. They'll be all right, but I won't take too much from that game yesterday. So I put the Giants, Titans, and then Broncos at the bottom of that tier, like you did, and then the Panthers. And this is not being over dramatic, and I'm not being a sour Panther fan, but just legitimately, I can't even speak. That got me so messed up. Like I there's no way you can sit here and say the Panthers aren't far and away the worst team in the league. I mean, the
Yeah.
Panthers and Giants, even though the score differential in their first games were a lot different, they were kind of right there together. I'd put the Giants at least a respectable amount above the Panthers. The Panthers,
Yeah.
garbage. I mean, it's dog poop, uh, horse poop, cow manure, whatever you want to call it. They are all of those put in the pan, tossed together, served on a plate. That's what they are. So to me, I would say Panthers are far and away the worst team in the league. And maybe putting Andy Dalton in, I told you this earlier, we were talking about it. Putting Andy Dalton in would at least kind of stabilize things just because he is a vet. Obviously, hadn't been a starter in a while, but he is a vet. He'll at least have a little bit more confidence built up. Maybe just give Bryce a chance to. I know benching him probably is going to hurt, but maybe just give him a chance to kind of settle down and at least see, what you have with the team. And if for whatever reason Andy Dalton comes in and looks like God, then you might have a problem. But I mean, it's not just on Bryce Young. The whole organization for the past 6 years has been kind of a dumpster fire. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty obvious there with those tiers as well.